So, when did you start school? What happened after Portsmouth? Where did you go?
I started school in Portsmouth. I went to Highbury primary school. My gran used to walk me there. It was a bit of a trial because she was Welsh. Not that there wasn't a trial because she was Welsh. But she was very superstitious. And I remember sort of trotting along by the side of her and sort of looking at other people's gardens and other interesting things to small children, and asking her why seagulls made such a noise, and she said, because they're the souls of dead sailors, darling. And I was like, Nan, I'm only 5, you know.
But your nan was Welsh.
My nan was Welsh. She had the sight, and she could tell. She could do fortunes with tea leaves, which she did for. And people used to come around. Women used to come in from the neighbourhood. And in the afternoons when my mother was at work, because I was basically brought up by my grandmother, because my mother went out to work immediately as a shorthand typist, and my father was away working for Gulf Oil in Bahrain, and so my grandmother brought me up really, and she would tell your fortune with playing cards as well. We didn't have tarot cards or anything like that. It was just playing cards and tea leaves. And people would not just women would come and ask questions and sort of play around the place. But I went to the primary school, and I just knew, maybe it was because of the house being full of, bereavement, that I wasn't like, my house and my home and my family weren't like other people's. But you think, well, okay, that's just my family, that's just how it is. You don't, as a child, think, God, that's a bit weird. You don't think that. You just know that something's not the same. You're not the same. So, and I was very much a tomboy, because there weren't really any girls around to play with. By chance, in the neighbourhood, there were just lots of lads to play with. I had one friend called Lizzie, who was a wonderful person, whose mother could knit Fair Isle, which, if anybody knows about knitting, knows that Fair Isle is, like, to me, impossibly difficult. But her mother knit Fair Isle beautifully, but the child was then dressed in Fair Isle, which is this terribly complicated patterns from head to foot, from a tam, beret pulled down to her eyebrows. She had, like, National Health wire-rimmed glasses with one blacked out because she had a lazy eye. And she had socks, Fair Isle top socks pulled up to her knees. And I only went to her house once, and we were playing in the dining room to keep out of the way. Mother was doing some sewing, and I realised that Lizzie and her sister kept gerbils, which I'd never seen before, which was quite interesting to me. Except that her mother had knitted them little baby outfits to wear, so they're these miniature rats, basically, wearing baby bonnets and little baby matinee jackets, and they lived in a pram, an old pram in the corner, and they just flew around the room at sort of head height on everything, dressed, trailing baby clothes. Again, you're a child, so you think, oh, that's not interesting. You don't think anything of it, But it was bonkers.
Would have gone viral now.
Oh my God! Can you imagine? Gerbils in baby clothes. Oh, marvellous! But Lizzie was wonderful. But I don't know what happened to her. And eventually we moved anyway, so I never saw her again or anything. She was just a little child, and we moved to Sutton in Surrey when my father came out of Gulf Oil and joined a company. My mother got to be the executive wife that she wanted to be. And she was very, very happy. I don't think my father was, but she was. She could give, she gave lovely cocktail parties and had beautiful dresses. She was always beautifully dressed. I even remember her dresses from this time. I remember her wearing a white brocade sheath dress with a V-neck, sleeveless, that buttoned up the back with diamante buttons about that big, in the shape of flowers, right up the back. It was just beautiful. She had a fabulous figure. She always looked well turned out. So she just looked amazing. And I think she was bright, and I think she was terribly good at crafts, but she would never do them because she thought that plain and boring women did crafts. But if she was called upon to wrap a present or anything, it was beyond beautiful. It would be like 3-dimensional lotus flowers covered in sequins and things. You wouldn't believe what she could do with wrapping paper. But she wouldn't do anything. She wouldn't knit, she wouldn't sew, she wouldn't do crafts, she wouldn't do anything. She just drank and read sex and shopping novels by Jackie Collins, basically. That's what she did. And I suppose I did wonder. I think you do wonder, don't you? And you see, my father was very intellectual. He was interested in all kinds of things: history, literature. We did the campaigns of Alexander on the dining table of a Sunday. And all of this. And my mother was just completely bored, darling.
So on a Sunday, you mapped the conquests.
Oh no! Sunday we
an
reenacted.
empire before empires were invented of Alexander.
No, Alexander had an empire. We reenacted the campaigns of Alexander on the dining table with cruet.
Fantastic.
Sugar cubes and that, and he read everything, and he was interested in everything, in anything. Religion, he was very interested in religion. I was brought up with all kinds of different religions. Religion was just a great interest to him. But she wasn't interested in anything like that at all. I'm trying to think what she was interested in, and I can't think what she was. But anyway, we ended up in Sutton in Surrey because of his job, in a really strange house that was divided in half. It was like a biggish sort of flat house, and it was divided in half, not sideways but back to front. So there was somebody living in the back half, and we lived in the front half.
Wow.
It was a bit odd, and it faced, and the garden directly at the bottom of the garden was train tracks. So I got up with the 7:12 and went to bed with the 6:15, and that kind of thing. But, and it shook the house, the house shook with the noise. But my mother again went out to work, and I was sent to, when I came back from school, I'd go next door to the next doors, and they would give me dinner. And they were a family with a boy and a girl. And it was very difficult. It's not that I didn't get on with him. I couldn't understand. Roger, the boy, was a spoilt, whiny little prince, the apple of mummy and daddy's eye. And Marilyn was just an hysteric, as far as I was concerned. So I was brought up as a soldier. My father didn't believe in sex stereotypes. If you could do something, you did it. It didn't matter whether you were male or female. As he used to say, all monkeys can climb. So if you could do something, or you were interested in something, you did it. There wasn't any sense of that.
So you went to next doors for dinner. For what reason? Because
my mother wasn't home from work. So I was what they used to call, rather disparagingly, a latchkey child at that time. When I got home from school, there would be nobody in the house, so I had to go next door with their kids and have tea, with them. And they were very nice. They're nice to do it. They got, they were paid to do it, but they were nice about it and everything. And but their kids baffled me because they had no interest in history.
Naturally.
No. I was just like, what on earth did they do of an evening?
So what was your mother and father doing as an occupation at that particular time?
Well, my mother would have been always a secretary or a shorthand typist. She typed really fast and really well, given the fact that she always had her nails were incredibly long. And we didn't have acrylic nails in those days, so these were actually like proper long nails, grown nails. And she typed with the pad of her finger, not the end of her finger. She typed with the pad of her finger like that really, really quickly. So she always could get a good job. She didn't want to be a housewife. She had no interest in sitting around looking after a child. What would you do that for? And I can see her point. But and my father was, I think at that point he was working for Spicer Cow and Paper, so he was repping office paper.
When paper was still a thing.
When paper was a big thing, when you had, you had office stationery, which was proper, and with your heading on it and everything like that.
It's valuable as salt or sugar.
Well, not quite that, darling. I think it's somewhat exaggerating, but yes, it was a good job. He had a good job, but he was away quite a lot, but he had a good job.